wanted to kill each other.
Sure.
At some point, they always do, because there is a conflict.
And you're running into the exact.
Awesome, I love.
Oh, and these
And so I thought that it would be interesting to actually do that. Like, I mean, I thought that that's what we were going with for the pitch.
As we discussed, that I wanted to try to let's have her do one thing first and make that readable and work well, and then we can try having it be a bunch of different things. We can have a bunch of different Wendy's that do a bunch of different attacks, but not that we're going to have one character that does a bunch of different statuses all at once. That was where we had ended up in the initial discussion of it, and we can definitely try that later. It's just like.
Is that a good angle?
Overall, what the deliverables and goals are for the phases up to pre-alpha.
Ford Bowling is our example. Ford Bowling is in that phase right now, right? Yes.
Yes, actually, yeah. It's almost through that phase.
I'm helping
right now.
Yeah, I guess there is also the full-on bosses. Is that something that
We are not going to do bosses right now. We are going to do bosses in the game, but not at this stage.
Is it the case that the narrative is kind of taking a backseat to the action path combat stuff?
No, not necessarily.
Well, because we had a level in the original Psychonauts that was entirely reliant on script. You could not have the level without it, which
Sure.
is the theater level.
Yep.
For instance, so all of our levels. I mean, it seems to be coming in that aspect of the process is quite late compared to how it's usually done, I guess, for us.
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
no. Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Amy.
Yes.
You were working on a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Photo thing.
I'm delegating.
Oh, you delegated? Okay.
You didn't get
Standing in for it.
I think when people sort of mixing their messaging where they think that
See about that, and then probably spend the rest of the day crying.
Just like us,
Just another day.
Can you put that in Jira? Just log your hours.
For the task.
2 hours.
2 hours.
Definitely overestimated.
Crying at desk.
No, it's always the saddest thing to see people leave. It's just absolutely devastating, and it's really strange to be the one leaving, because it's devastating in a way that it's just you're doing this to yourself, and you don't even know what if it's a huge mistake. What the fuck? Just thinking about it.
But she had a great opportunity, a big company. That is, I think, something that's hard to pass up. And I mean, was it 17 years she ended up working here? 16 years? I only worked at LucasArts for 10 years. You can't. She was like, I feel really bad telling you this, and I was like, you gave us many, many years. You don't obviously owe us anything, and sticking it out at a company. This isn't like the 50s where you work at IBM till you die. But people working at a company. I thought 10 years at Lucas was a long time, but she worked here many, many years, and she'll be back. Obviously, I think it's obvious that she's gonna come back. No, I mean she's she's worked here many years, and she's still a friend of the company. And if she ever wants to come back, she can come back.
I'm so grateful for even being hired here, and how that's been the most wonderful thing to have happened to me in my life. I say that unequivocally, but I also just kind of need a little change. I've been here for a very long time, and I don't really know what else is possible, what else is out there, and I think I just need to see for myself.
And Anna, if you thought you could escape. Everybody who does not know, it is Anna's last day today.
Although
It's not
I'll
the big
be here
deal.
Monday.
You'll be here on Monday, and we
And
can make
this
a big
weekend.
deal out, and this weekend apparently, and we'll make a big deal out of it then. But it also is your last day officially on the Psychonauts 2 team at Double Fine.
This is my last Psychonauts 2 meeting.
I know we're not doing the big deal thing today. We'll do it on Monday. But I'm like, this is the chance.
You gotta lead up to it. It's like
I get to say something.
up until momentum.
So,
Stand.
so, you know, we basically started on the same day. And
But so we basically started the same day. So we've known each other and have worked together for 16 years.
Like this was our first job. We were so crazy about, like we're so passionate about it. And we were really young and we grew up together in a very real way. Like it feels like he's my brother, you know, in a lot of ways.
So you know someone for that long. It's sad to see your friend go.
And you yourself were away for a period of time, right?
I was.
Tim brings that up a lot.
So this was right after Psychonauts. I think, working on that game, it was a very hard game to make. It really wore on me. It was something that was really satisfying to go through, but then afterwards you just ended up being pretty burnt out. And various other factors made me think about looking somewhere else. And I think when you spend that time away from this company, I think you really get a sense of where you belong in this industry and what it is that you value and what's kind of important to you, where you work and what you do. And I think that's what solidified for me when I was away. I was like, this is a place I want to be, and these are the kind of games I want to be making.
Mm-hmm.
I came back to work here, and coincidentally, it was sitting right next to Anna.
Mm-hmm.
I know she's almost always like the first person that goes out and says hi to someone. And if there's anyone that I could point to, like, how do you define like what the heart of Double Fine is, or what the cult? I just had this question today. What is Double Fine's culture like? I could kind of explain, but not quite. But I thought Anna could say what that is.
Like he's the reason why I'm just like, okay, he's here. It's okay. He'll take care of everything.
We'll kidnap you from where you're going and then you work. And I want to say best of luck in the next thing that you do, but I don't have to because I know you're going to do amazing. So, thank you.
Tune in next week when we close out the sprint. See you there. I'm Andy Almeida.
I deserve.
I had to keep it together. Never cry. That was Tim's big advice to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Tim of Legend.
Focus on your breathing. I'm glad I broke that statue, though. Kind of took the edge off. just a nice experience to, and I started feeling like I got to be a lot more grateful about these awards.
Especially Chris Brown, who's also sitting right here. Chris Brown, thank you so much. There are a lot of Double Finers here in the audience tonight. They're the loud ones in the back. Double Fine. Hey, there they are. A special shout out to the veterans who worked at the company for 16 or 17 years. Ray Crook, Dave Russell, Jeff Solis, Keith Chi, Anna Kipnis, Nathan Stapley, and the rest of you. I want to thank all the...
Oh yeah, and of course, like Tim thanked us, the old timers personally, and that was really, that really meant a lot. It was a really nice bookend to my time at Double Fine, but Tim is going to keep making games, and hopefully I will too. And so it's not the end of everything yet.
I will thank you, all of you who came to the awards. That was really nice because I was really nervous about going up there, and I was worried that I was going to do something embarrassing like blubber on stage. But I was like, oh, I don't want to go up there. They're all going to boo. And then when you guys were yelling and screaming, it made me feel so much better. So thank you guys for all coming and being so super loud.
Hear the speech, actually.
Yeah, you're like, cover it up. The speech is going to be bad. Just cover it up with howling. So that was fun. So today is Anna's last day. She's sitting right over there.
It's my last day at Double Fine.
We all know Anna's a big jerk, and we're going to talk about that at length. The depth of your jerkedness, as you know how it goes. It's never pretty. But Anna Kipnis is always a huge part of what makes Double Fine after all these years, and I've always really appreciated just how fierce of a kind of a warrior for the company you've been all these years. We did want to give you something because of to represent the first thing that Anna and I ever collaborated on. This piece of Boyd. You can see it's all glued on. This is Boyd from the. I already said it. Yeah. There you go.
Also, just today was kind of incredible. I think I just didn't. You know, I've always had a good relationship with people here, and I've just. And there have been like lots of moments where we like get to say that to each other, like how much we appreciate working with one another and things like that. But I think having it come all at once was like pretty powerful. I didn't expect. Yeah, I didn't expect that like quite like this. I don't know if I could do this actually, but this is really a special place. And I hope that you guys can see that as I did, and that you continue keeping this just this lovely, accepting, and creative, and just rare place without me here. Maybe I'll come back.
Just bring your hands to the restaurant. Oh, I was like, who hasn't signed it with me?
It's an incredible goodbye card, as it were. This is a drawing by Emily Johnstone, and it's unbelievable. The one from Tim is Anna, welcome back in advance. I'm leaving, but Double Fine is going to be okay. It's around, and it has so many incredible people, and they're just going to keep doing those things. Like I think the culture that we old-timers have like established here is like it's holding tight. So I think people understand it, and they'll continue what we started. So.
That looks interesting. All right. All right. There's a game, I'm guessing. All right. Yay. What just happened?
Relative gravity did it.
What a tease.
what would that be? What would it look like? What is the tank enemy itself? Like, I don't really have a very good idea right now. I think it's really, really important to let people feel like they're contributing their perspective to something.
Nurse,
Hand me the dice.
Code red. Hand me the dice.
idea of mashing up a hospital into a casino is pretty exciting.
We'll kidnap you from where you're going and then you work.
It's really strange to be the one leaving. This is really a special place, and it's unbelievable.
I'm really sad Anna left. I love Anna. Anna was like some sort of heart of Double Fine. She was a heart of Double Fine, and I miss her.
Yeah, it was really sad to see Anna go because Anna's been here since almost the very beginning. You know, we spent many years working together.
You know someone for that long, it's sad to see your friend go. I hope that that she finds happiness in her next job or her current job now that she's started.
I think it'll just be a little bit different. I think a piece of Double Fine left. And not to mention, you know, she'd been here so long, and it was nice. It was the first time I ever had a female senior person above me. That never happened to me in my life. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And, you know, she sat right next to me, and she built some of our major systems, and it was a huge blow in a lot of different ways.
You know, on a project level, she brought the experience from the first game, but a lot of like the gameplay know-how that she has, just years and years of experience that she brings to the job.
She was basically in charge of all AI, and Brian was working with her so that he could sort of inherit some of the subsystems, and now he's just kind of the AI guy until we get like an AI person.
Anna left.
Yeah, she did.
Why'd that happen?
You know, she felt she needed to experience new things, and so she left me to fend for myself. And like me, who's like trying to do what he can, but is still fairly inexperienced with AI and combat. Like AI is super complex, and I hadn't done it professionally before, and so I'm still like learning.
Okay. Well, at least it's spawning. That's a good.
Like I said, it's a challenge trying to like figure out what combat in Psychonauts 2 is, because like I don't think any of us really knows what has like a very pristine, like exact view of what that will be. We're just kind of like we're heading towards various ideals.
So combat development's gonna be fun from here on out. So we had our current plan of like whatever it was, 8 complex enemies and X number of simple enemies, and like that may not be possible now anymore.
Do you think that there are some things that could have happened that would have made her more likely to stay? Because there were some changes after she left.
Other exciting news also is we're going to get Scott's time, and he's going to charge through a whole bunch of crazy visual enemy design. I've been too guarded of stuff, of trying to keep us on schedule and pack as much into the game, and that's mostly been trying to make a big game with a small team. And I want to try to shift that to more like bottom-up creativity, to have that be a broader discussion that hopefully everybody feels like they're excited about. I hope. If you're not, let's talk about it one-on-one later. You don't have to tell people in a group while there's cameras rolling. Hi, everybody.
No, I don't know really. I don't know if I have dirt on Anna. I know that I don't think her and Zach got along. That's all I know.
She left for the reasons that everyone else is really frustrated. There's pretty consistent complaints that the game is not psychonautical enough right now. The stress has been a roller coaster for the last few months.
And when pathing is complete, that means artists can paint over.
Well, pathing's not exactly complete because we just gave James some feedback on stuff that he needs to work on.
In which zones?
The two we just looked at.
I guess
okay.
my question is, when will it be complete? Like, how long does it?
When we can do the iteration and then check it in. That's.
I mean, there's still a lot of work to do on the hub, so
Yes,
I would
right.
focus on
This
that.
isn't an immediate need. I'm just doing my due diligence here to
fine.
line stuff up.
Yeah. Just the problem that we keep running into is that iteration happens, then another week of iteration happens, and then another iteration of week happens. Like we keep waiting is the problem sometimes.
We're not. We're scheduling out what we're going to do.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Oh. Why did that meeting get so tense? I mean,
it does make it difficult, like, for you to start placing things when it's constant iteration and that goalpost keeps moving back when you can fully go in there and start. There are things that you can do in the meantime, like kitting out this sort of stuff.
I mean, there's always stuff
but you've
to
already
do.
started to do.
I'm not worried about not having stuff to do. I'm just worried that it's never is going to stop. The iterations is never going to stop.
I think it is. That was probably like the boiling point was Anna leaving, and was the moment everyone realized something needed to change, or else lots of people are going to leave.
I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, there's been a lot of feedback coming up just about like process on the team and how we work together and collaboration. And all of that is really, really good feedback. There's been some sort of like big teeth gnashing meetings and things like that. But it's all really awesome because now we can fix those things and make everything work better.
And also too, I think he knows that like we had that whole meeting about the designers and stuff, and like there's going to be give and take, and like it's different. Do you guys know about that? There were no cameras, so I don't know if like. Did you talk to anyone? I don't want to be the only one that's talked about this.
Yeah, I mean it was one of the things we had a big leads meeting about just kind of what we hope to get out of the next phase of the project that I didn't let you guys film.
We had a couple interdisciplinary meetings, but a lot of meetings within our own discipline that were like, hey, what's messed up about the project right now? And it turns out like there's a lot of stuff that people aren't happy about.
What's that?
Did the meeting end?
The thing that sucks is because it's like I think it's an important part of like the project, but I don't want to be the guy that's talking about
We'll come back to you. After.
Yeah, it was kind of tough at first, but I think it's a lot better now.
Definitely was.
It was definitely a little contentious at first.
I'm surprised there was no drama. Nobody walked out of the room like, bah. Oh, I've had like some seriously bad discussions. PTSD
Not
from
here.
No, not here. Other places.
We did help that a lot by changing how we were running meetings. Meetings were very design focused, and the arts couldn't get a word in, and so as the creative process is evolving, they were feeling left out. So, changing like who gets to speak first, and then noticing when people are cutting people off, and then giving them the opportunity to speak. Like all those little things that people don't notice really matter when people feel like they're being heard.
Yeah, actually we got rid of a lot of meetings, which is nice. Because before, I mean, also too, I guess there's just like a lot more reviews, and like my meetings and like things have like shrunk down a lot, so I can get like a lot of work done. Yeah, there's like a lot less stress before. Because there's like a lot of stress when like you're going to meetings and stuff, and like you only have a couple hours a day to work.
Oh wait, do I have another meeting now? Fuck, I do. God damn it.
But like lately, I have like full days to actually work now, and it's a lot easier to get things done.
I think Zach has a tendency to kind of want to know, I don't want to say like controlling, but he just wants to like look over what people are doing, and sort of he's used to telling people to, here's the next thing you have to do.
He was so organized and had such a process for doing things that I was like, this will be a relief for the team, because when I run things, it's very chaotic and everyone wonders how much work they have to do.
He curls up into it and you roll him around like.
And he's been very responsive, or he's been very good at realizing that I'm sort of better unstructured. But in the beginning, he was like, do this next part. And I was like, I don't think that's important.
The backstage area, it's also gonna.
But you're like also on like the sets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
this,
guess I wasn't
this is being designed for that, and we have
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have metrics, and we have like minimum distances and things that
know.
we need for that. So,
Yeah.
and this isn't just about combat, by the way. This is about a lot of the other gameplay that we have, which requires those kinds of metrics to be observed in order to make it good gameplay for what we're doing.
It definitely felt like design was kind of trying to gatekeep all the content, and that just wasn't gonna work because we had to do our jobs, you know.
We have to find a balance between writing the ride and experiencing the story, and then getting off the ride and jumping and moving around. And if things are too spread out, the story suffers, and if things are too compact, then the gameplay suffers. It's an ongoing struggle, and I don't think it's ever going to go away. The dynamic between art, design, and engineering. It's a symbiosis, but there's also differing like goals and desires, and you always have to kind of find a middle ground that works for the player.
It feels like people think that it's not how Double Fine does it normally, but also my understanding has always been that like Zach and other new people have been brought in to make the studio run differently. So like it could just be growing pains that people are not used to games being made this way.
And Seth.
Yeah, I'm going to be joining the level design team for Psychonauts.
Awesome. Excellent. How many Dio shirts do you both own?
I have 3, I think, and then one Black Sabbath, like Heaven and Hell era one.
Yeah.
Somebody told Seth how to get a job at Double Fine. There's a tip-off on that one. But we're looking at it sort of like process and team-wide and culture-wide and sort of figuring out how to work better together. Because, going into last year, it was a lot of just like heads down, here's a big list of things, let's get things done. And people drift apart when you do that. People kind of move apart in goals, people lose track of what other people are doing, people are not as sort of generous or trusting in terms of like if something's not getting done, maybe there's a reason for it, or if something is being done that I don't understand, maybe there's a reason for it. And so it's a little fractured right now. So we're trying to focus a lot more on just team cohesion and kind of team culture and come up with a better way of working as we move into kind of the next phase of the project, because there's going to be a lot to do.
I welcome that feedback, and I want that feedback to be happening on the team, because then we...
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of our discipline meetings, that's a weird way to say that. In a lot of our design meetings and art meetings, we've talked about how we'd like to have more Tim time for like low-level stuff, and it's unfortunate that he doesn't seem to have the time.
Is Tim not making it to this?
He's coming.
So you say.
We've sort of been used to seeing Tim around more in meetings.
Tutorially and storyally, what's important about the level? Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Tiberius Schaefer. What is your middle name? John? Is it just a John?
Tiberius sounds pretty good.
And he's definitely been writing a lot of stuff. It's not like he's off not doing anything.
Yeah.
But we just wonder if like that element is missed. Like if
Absolutely.
I'm going to walk away from this meeting. I don't know if it's over, but it seems like it's over.
It's over.
It's over. It is over.
Nothing is over. Nothing. You don't just turn it off.
What is he talking about?
Rambo, come on, anyone? No?
Isn't the first one really different than the other ones?
Yes.
The first one's actually good.
Yeah. Comparative discussion of Rambo versus First Blood is always my cue, too. Because I have too many opinions.
Right.
But one of the things that came up was trying to get more Tim involvement. It's a tricky thing, like I have tried. I'm very personally invested in the game and creatively invested, and I see all of these things in the game that are like, just ideas we had forever ago. But I know for a lot of people, like, I will always be the game's stepdad, kind of, having Tim's approval, even if they don't literally need it, even if it isn't like he's blocking things. Having him give the blessing to what we're doing on a more continual basis is something that I think is important to people, so that they feel like they're making the right game. Because a lot of people who have come in are people who are Psychonauts fan and they want to be making a good Psychonauts too.
Is Tim here?
Nope. No.
Yeah, Grant, see.
And I think him being a little more present than he has been is part of putting them at ease. But we got to find a way to split the difference between him being locked away in his office writing on the game and him, actually being out there in front of people once in a while. So I think it makes a huge, huge difference in just what people think they're building, And I certainly could use the support. So, all right, ending of the game.
Okay, I was going to write those 2 cutscenes.
All right, ending of the game. So let's.
How far did I get? I got to going into the mental scalpel.
Yeah.
Coming out.
Yeah.
I've always been very controlling about the writing on the project, and I had to be really behind on my schedule to be talked into getting any help ever. It's just easier to write it yourself. When someone else writes stuff, if it's great, it's great. And if it's really bad, that's great too, because you're like, this is really bad. But if it's just like, when it's okay, you're just kind of like, I don't know what to say. But sometimes when it's just like taste or style, that's what I'm worried about the most, when it's like a taste or a style issue.
What happens at the end of the game? Like, is like those two characters who are both potentially could be portrayed as wrong and evil, redeemable or unredeemable, tragic or villainous, like because you could take either one of them. It could be that, yeah, Ford is unredeemably awful, or Maligula just can't be saved, or one of them sacrifices themselves for the other one, or you learn that it was all a misunderstanding or whatever. And like, what version of that is the right version for a Psychonauts game? Is my question.
Yeah, it's a funny challenge, because like, Maligula could die.
Yep.
Sacrifice herself, but it's like such a short amount of time
Yeah.
to have that much emotional growth.
Yep. Ford's actually, at this point in the story, he's probably worse.
He did all the things, yeah.
I think that's going to be the audience perception based on what we have right now. It's like, huh, Ford's kind of a bad guy.
All's fair in love and war.
Yeah.
Or he was young and he made mistakes, and then he suffered enough for it by being crazy all these years. And
yeah.
I mean, it seems like to really make it the game, like the victory is that Ford has brought back the original vision of the Psychonauts to the Psychonauts.
Yeah.
So Ford and the Psychic Seven, they're all welcome back into the base in some way for lunch. We get a free lunch.
Yeah,
All right.
You're like, all right,
let's do that.
Making it all easy. It's so easy now.
I feel for Zach, because that's a high pressure position. It's like a lonely job. You can talk to me, you can talk to his producers, but you've got a bunch of people on the team that you're trying to keep moving and productive and happy, and you're a natural focal point for their dissatisfaction if anything's on the project, and especially that part of the project where you're just hoping people have faith that it's going to be good. I think it's always a trial, and especially a trial for a new project leader to exude that confidence to everybody.
They're rendering APIs. It's the new
I can't even imagine like being in his situation. That sounds so hard. He's trying. I know he's trying.
There's nothing in the game that I don't understand how it would get good. Awesome. Okay, great. Hey, Asif. Signer Asif. And I need to figure out how to get everybody on board with that. Just confidence.
So we're only left with like 40 open issues, which is about what we usually end with. And these are the things that are just going to be rolling over to the next sprint and milestone.
So this milestone really is about getting all of our core gameplay systems and our world art represented in real, actual production levels at a level of polish and density that represents our intentions for the full game. So not totally shippable, not totally perfect, but something that we can sort of stand behind and look at and be like, yes, that is the version of the thing that we want to ship, and it's just going to get better and better every day. But basically something that demonstrates what good looks like. So we're going to be doing that in what we're calling currently pilot areas. So my hope for that is I'm trying to sort of just build some buy-in on kind of what our creative goals are. So there's a couple of different ones that are happening in different areas across the game, and the idea of each one of those would sort of demonstrate a different kind of good thing about the game. And then eventually we'll start sort of pushing that out as an example to everywhere across the game. So there's an exploration pilot which covers platforming, collectibles, and world interactivity of punching things and collecting things and exploring and platforming. We're going to do that in the Hollis Hub, the big Hollis Hub area. Puzzle pilot, which hopefully will represent a shippable version of a puzzle that we can play and play test and someday will ship, as opposed to a puzzle we will build, hate, and then take out of the game again, which is what we have been doing.
This is the puzzle pilot, yeah.
Is this you?
Mm-hmm.
You're the puzzle pilot master? You're the flight attendant on this puzzle pilot?
Yeah, well, there was no one left to make puzzles, so.
The combat pilot, covering representative group combat throughout the tutorial areas of Cassie.
Oh yeah, this is nobody attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody attacks. Especially him jump, like, they back up from
bro.
you immediately too. Let's get him in a corner.
They're like, whoa, I don't need.
We can talk about
troubles.
this.
I got cornered.
This guy's
Yeah.
crazy. We're just in the library.
And a very exciting World Art pilot with pre-alpha pass at World Art, visual effects, and lighting running on PS4 at 30
60.
60?
I don't know, 90.
Oh, 90, 120. It's going to be in Hobbit vision. But this is sort of like the big thing that we're trying to accomplish is have a couple of areas that look great and a couple areas that play great for different kinds of gameplay. And then as we approach the next milestone, kind of spread those out as guidelines more across the game more evenly.
That might have been my version.
I can still.
I'll have to look at yours.
I pulled whatever was in my. So
I made a different version for this.
Okay.
Now, with Psychonauts now, we've sort of seen a recent shift after the previous milestone, where they're trying out this pilot process.
Yes. There's a lot of things that's very energizing about working collaboratively and closely together on a very iterative way, just to get your head, just to take your head out of your desk and like be able to like take a step back and like look at what it is that's being created.
This whole area needs a theme to make it work, right? It's either like there's X-rays, the X-ray machine. There's something about all of the pieces that need to make sense.
And now with the pilot program, we're actually like sitting in a room and talking about like holistically what makes the level good or bad, which is a nice change.
And we really need like a time running out sound on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Anya after this.
Yeah.
The entire sort of like company is represented in all of its departments. Like there's an effects artist there, there's a concept artist there, there's programmers and designers, and we're all talking about things together.
The pilots were cool because it's like we saw progress.
There's more of a sense of collaboration in them, and I think that's kind of raised morale a bit.
I brought Levi.
Oh no!
He's gonna do it too.
I think it's really good for us to see it all come together.
Go team. Play build.
What's up, Andy? Hi. You're really around. We're gonna do a clip here. I'm not miss it all. This is very exciting. HR.
Upset anybody. All right, is it time?
But I think people wanted to see results in certain areas, especially proving that the game was going to feel psychonautical, feel like a good follow-up to Psychonauts.
The biggest and most exciting thing that we're going to undertake is the narrative pilot.
Don't do that. So that's where the things like the narrative pilot came from. It's like a lot of that stuff, when you play the game, that's what seems missing is all the characters and story and stuff.
All right, Tim said he was going to make it, but I guess he's not. He's on his way. He's going to do a lot of writing, and it's going to be amazing. Okay, so narrative pilot. Anything else? Anything else people think strongly needs to be included?
Subtitles.
Oh, subtitles. Oh, good one. Yeah. All right. Do we have what we need for that? No. All right. Let's put it on there as a stretch goal, and we'll try to get to it.
Cool.
For sure. Yes, I think that's probably going to, the interesting object stuff is probably going to come as part of a second pass, where we play through it and be like, hey, Raz should say a thing about this funny sign, or whatever.
Yeah.
Big log. Purple bushes.
I think we have a
Big
first
log.
pass at like listed in here and we'll figure out where to get it.
To burn, blow
We've
up.
got squirrels.
We've got squirrels.
And goats.
We've got goats.
And they can be in the diner.
And we have a squirrel milking a goat.
Squirrel milking a goat?
That's a surprise. Sorry.
That was going to be a surprise for Zach later.
Goat milking a squirrel.
Goats currently walk-in.
But I've never felt worried about that stuff going in because there's going to be way too much of that stuff by the time we're done. There's going to be way too many jokes. We're going to have to cut jokes by the time it's done and cut characters and stuff.
Anything else that you think is super important that is, like, should be included with the pilot that we haven't talked about?
Well, I mean, I had some thoughts I was just going to mention them too. They're not implementation specific, but I was like, a character changes some beeline plot or feeling during the thing, like we actually show someone
some progression
or a character state to show like all these tools add up to like, and go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because we've been told a bunch by the old timers here that like when Tim writes stuff, it's going to change the level, and you're going to have to, and you're going to want to make design changes based on the stuff he comes up with, which is great because it's the thing we all want the game to do right now is to feel more like Psychonauts.
Oh, look at that. That is super awesome and a good video game. Yeah!
I don't know, we have another programmer starting on Psychonauts, also named Anna. Apparently we always have to have a programmer named Anna.
Yeah.
Working
Third
here.
law of
Which is
Anna's.
good. Yeah.
So, new Anna's gonna take old Anna's job.
Often, when someone starts here at the company, we ask them some questions in front of everybody in case someone wasn't there during your interview, doesn't know anything about you. James, you're looking at me. Do you have a question for Anna? Yes, go ahead.
If you were a character in the movie The Lake House, what would you send through the time-traveling mailbox?
Alright, so current set of priorities, and I don't know if you've had any chance how far people got on this stuff. We are missing Ben and Will. And combat is sort of in an in-between state right now, for sure. Like, there's some really good infrastructure and some good content, but we haven't had a chance to sort of polish it. Like, the most specific thing.
How do you feel like you've been meshing with the culture of the studio in general? Like, is this place that different from other game studios you've been at?
It's a lot friendlier environment. I come from Chicago, which is especially the programming is very bro-y there, so it's very competitive with programmers. But here, Aaron, our graphics engineer, I'll ask him a math question, he's like, I don't know. And he's perfectly fine with saying, I don't know. And I like that. It's more of a collaborative, we help each other, and we're okay saying that, which that's taken a little while to get used to. Also, this noise gets a little...
And so like things have been sort of accelerating since then, which is great. And I think Anna was a great hire, and I'm glad she's with us.
Oh man.
This is the judge, like, really judging you. Super, yeah.
Stupid. The giant hammer that says stupid on it is so harsh. Oh.
You have a judgment. Everyone has their kind of judgy side. No one likes to be judged, so this is like your inner judge.
Yeah.
Giant gavel.
So Dwayne is, I can do right up. So Dwayne is like a big, defensive, kind of strongman character that has this giant shield, and the shield blocks all your attacks. Oh, it seems like this character should go with this prototype that we have.
We were working to swap the old guy with the new guy so that all the animations work, and his animations are slowly being replaced. So but
brutal.
But we are slowly swapping them out, and soon all those weird deformed ones will be replaced, and we're replacing some of the attacks. But this was the quickest way to get him up and running.
The judge, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, are there any big ticket items that are going in today? Hi, Tim.
We got dialogue trees in.
So I will say the one thing that's interesting about Tim working in his office all the time is I thought that going through this, I would get some sort of sense of his process and how he like actually thinks about this stuff. It's not like he has like a bunch of note files on Google Docs where he like hashes out like what characters should be like, and that or that we have like character bios or things like that. Like all that kind of stuff, like a lot of it's just very internal. His process is not like evident in like real world artifacts. And so like I've picked up on little bits, but like how he actually writes, I don't know, because I've never seen him actually writing. It could go either direction.
What are you doing? Like, what are those objects?
So these are going to become the poles. So
they're gonna be like big poles laying flat on the ground that you TK up in the air like that, or?
Okay, this is, and like we'll actually look at the game. I'm like, this is the situation. This is where the characters are going to be, and that kind of stuff. And he writes to that.
Yeah, I guess I would need to know exactly what you're doing so that Raz or Dion can talk about it. Like, you need to put that thing in the base, and you need,
Yeah. I don't know if it's a process of like me having learned how he writes a little bit, him having gained some sort of confidence that like I've thought things through a little bit before talking, or just like the sheer amount of stuff that we need to get done, that he's like, all right, you know what? If like the designers have figured this out, like I'm gonna go with it.
Well, that's like he implanted that version of himself. That's
Yeah.
like an
That's-
automaton.
That's the yeah. We have to figure out. We have to figure things out.
I mean, the tricky thing with Tim is like the version that he just like spouts out like instantly is almost always like good. He's just a very like fast creative in a lot of ways.
The goat should have a job. Like he's got a spoon in his mouth. He's trying to stir a bowl.
Yeah.
He's like splashing around. He's like, no. I told you, figure eights. Figure eights. It's fun working with Seth, and it's that kind of development that I you miss when things are really well organized. That just kind of like, what can we do? What can we get done in 2 weeks? Let's put this in. Let's put that in, and you're seeing how much you can accomplish in 2 weeks.
No, because I asked for acorns that were crushed. Didn't I? Didn't I? I hate to yell at you for that stuff, but I...
Rez has crashed the scene right now, so I got to go figure out what's going on there. But regardless, we can now do camera cuts. We have dialogue in for some.
People started believing in it. I mean, obviously, hopefully, most people always believed in it, but you start seeing evidence of like, oh yeah, this is start really feeling like this is gonna be great.
Oh, you got a Bertha bomb and then you turn back into a sensor. Dumb.
Whoa! Nice. Okay. Well, he's gone now. What's going on?
Oh, what? Oh. Unintentional, but good. All right.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Will, you look like you had fun, almost.
I almost had fun.
Almost had fun? You're going to also take a 5-minute nap. Is everyone just literally going to sit here in silence for a little bit? Of that.
They can get some good shots of us like, oh my god, they worked so hard.
That thing pops out. One of those hospital beds comes in, and then you're like actually in the classroom doing some other stuff. So that's where it's at for right now. And then I'll keep doing the other stuff.
Cool.
I think it does really isolate it and make it feel kind of like the very beginning tutorials when like Ford gives you a merit badge in the first game.
Yep. He's been great so far. Like on the puzzle pilot, it was awesome working with him, and it was really cool. And like the puzzles, like were really smart.
Yeah, and this sort of just keeps going. And there's more buttons to press and puzzles to solve, but I don't want to do it all in front of you guys right now because I do want to test this with some of you. So hopefully you will figure out what to do next.
Look, it just keeps going and going and going and going.
Yeah, there is stuff to do.
Austin's made Psychonauts 3 in this room.
It's a Mega Man level. But then it turned out to be such a cool puzzle experience, or like a little area or whatever. It was cool. The exploration one was nuts. We feel more confident that it's like a cool level, a cool little area to play.
It's also nice to see an area get more towards finished, so that the people who normally play the game and are like, it's nonsense to me right now, can actually give useful feedback.
Looks like, okay, I get the hospital theme now. I saw the IV racks and didn't quite make the connection. I saw the wheelchairs and just thought like, oh, old people casinos. but now I see hospital beds, so okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we've completely solved it, because I don't think like a lot of people understood it was a hospital. I don't know. Maybe it's enough. Maybe it's not yet. I don't know. Maybe we'll get feedback and like we'll adjust it then.
Yeah, we are still working away on our different pilot areas and gameplay and art, and so the art one's starting to look very, very pretty and quite nice. It's the big Ford clerk one that has a giant robotic, multi-armed Ford in the middle, sorting mail and moving around.
I think the art pilot was like a really good moment where we're like, yep, this is gonna look pretty goddamn awesome if we can finish it.
So
Sometimes it has
if it
a
has
little
like
bit
more
of
of like a
sheen.
sheen and like
Yeah.
a wetness in areas, and yeah, right now it's very, very even and flat.
He also just thinking about just effects around like all his joints moving around and like just little, I don't know if it's smoke or steam or sparks or whatever it needs to be.
Yeah.
It's kind of be glorious.
It's very fun.
It's too cool.
Yeah, it's too cool. Fun. Anyway, yeah, I had to share that because that's the first time I saw it. I think it went in yesterday.
Looks good.
Tazio is also bringing special effects magic to it with the Maelstrom. Uh-oh.
I mean, it mostly speaks for itself. It's a big maelstrom of mail.
It felt near alpha quality. That robot looked really cool. Materials were awesome. Effects were awesome.
And then felt like a lot of floating platforms, which is always tricky. Small floating platforms specifically.
I think it's a natural time in the project to have morale kind of pick up because you're in that middle part where everything's bad, game's not fun, and everything's ugly. That's just a natural. That's just where you are, you know, pre-alpha a lot of times. And then you start climbing out of that hole where you put together your first few fun things and your first good-looking things, and we have like, you know, Ford, mail clerk Ford start to look good, and people are like, oh, maybe this game's gonna be looking good. And then we do the questionable area where it has some funny jokes in there, and people are like, hey, there'll be some funny jokes in here.
Oh, cretino. You guys.
So the end I'm not finished with, but I want a little shot at the end where
I can't believe that works. I wrote that to be impossible. I like, this will slow him down.
Anyway, we haven't done a review with it yet, and Tim, this is the first time Tim has seen it, so.
I love it. No, good, chip it.
It just feels like a Psychonauts game. It's really cool to see. But a game that's for this next generation. It's great. I think it's neat.
Yes, it's really inspiring. This is great, guys.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. The QA area, I think that's pretty cool. Like with the family camp area, it's not all there, but just like talking to the family members and like interacting with them was really cool. It's kind of just like an area you can explore and like you kind of feel like you're in that world.
Josh, it plays good. The helmet stuff's good. It's like not done.
That's kind of like what this is like working towards.
All right, we're gonna start. I think you were fastest.
Okay.
All right.
It felt like a Psychonauts video game. It's probably the first time I felt that.
Whoa.
But I mean that in a good way. I mean that in a very good way.
It is so. I will say, I sort of already said it, but like, it's really good. It's really good. Like, it's really funny. It's really charming. It's really well paced out. It's dense. There's like lots of good writing in it. All the characters are adorable. So like, it totally does feel like a Psychonauts game. So it's great. Yay! Yay us! Yay team! Go team! Making a good video game.
Uh-oh. Shit. Oh, God. Shit. I don't even know where it is now. Whoops. Oh, well. We'll get it later.
You know, since the dawn of time, probably since the first art was created by the human, two things have been major questions. The first is, what tool do I use? And the second is, how do I get good fast? And I think these are integral problems that we strive to deal with as artists. What I want to do in this podcast is unpack the idea of what actually makes us improve quickly and how the tools sort of interplay with that and interact with the idea of learning and how to get good. I think there are a lot of traps here if we get lost in oscillating between different tools, different techniques, different ideas. It's easy to lose your way and lose a lot of energy and momentum in your journey towards becoming the type of artist that you want to be. What I'll do is unpack this concept of how the tools relate to getting good, how the tools relate to the speed of adaptation of your learning, and also give you a few really super practical tips and sets of advice and frameworks that you can use to make sure that you are using tools to the best of their ability so that they serve you. Welcome to this podcast style show. My name is Tim McBurney. I've been a professional working artist for over 20 years, and a lot of that time has actually been spent, mentoring and teaching students, either in a university environment where I'm teaching hundreds of students a year how to draw, how to get better, how to do it fast, or either just one-on-one helping people through these struggles and understanding how to get good quickly and what tools to use. Now, this is a little bit of an experiment. This is the first episode that I'm doing of a podcast show, which is just an opportunity for me to talk about art, more in the sort of intellectual sort of word realm, right? So on the Drawing Codex channel, where I teach drawing, and it really is just all about drawing and art and line and color illustration and comics and manga, etc. Here, what I want to do is unpack a lot of the ideas that go into productivity. Again, the theoretical side of being an artist, potentially some things around sort of how to make money, how to freelance as an artist, etc. But I really like the idea of doing a show about visual stuff that is sort of not visual, because I think that way you can listen to it while you draw, or, you know, while you're doing something else. So that's the goal here. So hopefully the idea here is either you're doing something else or you're drawing, but we're going to sort of learn about art, how to get good at art, how to be productive, how to be efficient, how to become professional artists, or, you know, just really, really good hobby artists, whatever you want to do. Now, this idea of tools, as I said, I think really is something that harkens back to the earliest aspirations of humankind. I can easily imagine the first people who were doing cave painting have two questions, right? The first is, what paint are you using? How do you do that? And the second is, how do I do it? And how do I get good at it fast? Now, I think that a big part of this is really about simplifying your tool set, and that's what I'm going to sort of unpack here, is the idea of the tools and how they relate to speed specifically. Now, keep in mind, again, this is coming from someone who has spent a lot of time mentoring people. I've seen a lot of stuff, right, out in the real world. This is not necessarily theoretical. These are all sort of ideas that we've sort of put to the test, right? And I've seen lots of different approaches and things that people try, traps people tend to fall into. And I'm in a situation, you know, now where, like, look, I can buy any tool I want, right? If it's really going to help my art. The idea of simplicity is not necessarily one of frugality or of, you know, hey, you know, don't worry about, you know, the fancy tools that some professional artist is using. You just need these kind of little, you know, plebeian tools, right? Just sort of go back in your corner and learn to draw with a pencil. I think it's a lot more nuanced than that, and it's a lot more important than that for your artistic journey to understand how the tools really relate to what you're doing. So I really want to start this exploration with this concept of what tool do you use? And this is something that I think we all have this desire to learn what the tools our favorite artists use. And, you know, the classic example is that people will come up to a comic book artist at a convention, you know, some professional, really amazing comic book artist, and they're just going to ask this question, like, what pencil do you use? And I think this is just one of these sort of primal conversations that I think is really important to have as artists, is like, does that matter? And I can remember doing this. I remember, you know, really being a fan of, you know, comic book artists such as Joe Mad back when he was drawing Battle Chasers. And this was sort of highly energetic, you know, sort of really manga inspired. One of the first kind of real sort of manga US Western sort of fusion styles that I think was really working. And I just kind of wanted to know how he did everything. And I would just, you know, you literally be looking through interviews in magazines trying to search for, like, okay, which pencil is it? Like, oh, it's like a 3H lead. Like, what brand is it? Oh, it's not a brand. It's like this thing. And like, what's the lead holder? And then, like, you know, you'd see people do stuff like a lot of, you know, artists end up modifying their tools. You kind of say, hey, just use a pencil kit. But they end up modifying their tool. They end up, you know, wrapping tape around it, or, you know, putting some sort of, you know, modification to it to make it easy to hold. And, you know, you'd be looking at that as a young artist saying, like, oh, is that it? Is that the trick? Is that what matters, right? And, you know, I think obviously the answer that most people give you is like, no, look, it doesn't matter, right? I think one of the best quotes I sort of heard on this is that, look, if you can draw with a burnt stick on a brown paper bag. And I think that's sort of true, but it's also important to consider the tool, because the tool is how we interact with the art. So, you know, another example of like sort of searching for tools that I, you know, had is that, you know, when comics started to be colored digitally, I'd sort of see them in the newsstand, and I'd sort of be picking them up. And I think me and my friend in high school, you know, we're just sort of sitting there thinking, like, how do they do this? How do they get the colors so flat? How do they get these gradients in there? how do they make it look sort of clean? And we tried everything. I tried watercolor, I tried poster color, I tried gouache, I tried acrylic, I tried like everything you could think of. And I think, it was really later on that we kind of realized that they were doing this with a computer. And at that point in time, this was sort of the mid 90s, that was inconceivable, right? Because no one was really doing that. But I think we found some sort of really good Japanese, like step-by-step magazines that, showed this process. And we were like, oh my, they're doing it digitally. And these are the programs. And so that's sort of what we did. And that's actually the genesis for how I sort of got into digital art really early, is I was just looking at comic books and sort of being like, how do they do this? And, it was done in Photoshop. And so that's why I learned Photoshop. Now, I think there's something really important there, because I think that impulse to search for the right tool is actually completely valid. And I think as an artist, it is well within your right, and it will certainly help you to, figure out what tools your favorite artists are using and, use that as a good directional guide, right? Like, you want to be using the same kind of tools that your favorite artists are. And again, we'll circle a little bit back to that, because I think there's a couple of really important takeaways there. But the problem is that if you've done this, you find that the tool doesn't make a difference, right? I would use a 3H pencil in a lead holder, and I would put tape on it, and I'd do all the things. And it obviously wouldn't make me draw better, and it wouldn't make me draw like the artist who I was really admiring. Similarly, we ended up, buying computers, one of the really early sort of Bondi Blue iMacs, and getting Photoshop 3 and playing around with it and trying to figure it out. And it's a lot harder than it looks. It's like we're in the right area, but something was missing. And the thing that's missing is us. And I think that really is the lesson here that people are trying to get across with that idea of, look, if you can draw with a burnt stick on a brown paper bag. That's true, but again, the tools do matter. But it's important to understand, obviously at the outset, that the thing that's going to change, the thing that is going to improve, and the thing that you need to improve to get yourself better quicker is you. So really the task is your learning. The tool helps, but what you're trying to do is actually improve your understanding, your foundation, your craft, your relationship to drawing or painting or sculpture or whatever it may be. That's the thing that actually gets better over time. It's how you utilize the tool, and it's your knowledge of the tool and the way that you can employ it sophisticatedly to create amazing things. Now, I think the other aspect to this, the other facet to this, is that there is something really important about a simple set of tools, or a simple tool in and of itself, a simple methodology or process for creating art. And I think this is, again, the other element that you really have to consider here, is that often what happens with that seeking of a different tool is that you find the tool, you use it, and it's maybe not going to do what you want. And certainly this happened to me, is that I would, again, find a tool, I'd find a thing, and I'd try that particular 3H lead in a lead holder, and I could kind of see how it was maybe going to make me, draw like that person. Like there was an element of that particular pressure on the paper that would kind of get that result. But, most of what would happen, and what I see with students, is that we oscillate, we meander. Instead of kind of saying, oh, okay, look, I've got the tool, this is what I need, I just need to learn how to use it. We're often drawn to try out different tools, to experiment. And I think that the sort of, just the traditional high school education, and a lot of sort of university education, even around art, does put a big emphasis on materials, right? And learning different materials, doing swatches with all the different pencils and all this kind of stuff, and trying out different things. And there's certainly validity to that. But I think really at the core of, understanding and getting good at a tool is, what you want to do is pick a very, very limited number of tools, and you need to learn to use them in a very, very deep and fundamental way. you need to go really, really deep in depth and understand the very, very subtle intricacies of how that particular tool works. And it's that knowledge, that deeper knowledge, that will actually help you apply to different mediums. So, going really deep with, maybe watercolor might actually help you with a different medium, because you take with you that knowledge of the fact that there is intricacy to that tool, to that medium, to that set of paints, and the way you apply them, the way they interact with the paper, etc., etc. And this is exactly the same with digital, right? You understand how to use Photoshop really well. That's going to make it very, very easy for you to use Procreate, Clip Studio, whatever. These things are actually very similar. They have small differences, but it's the depth of knowledge that allows us to actually much more easily adapt to new tools. So what you want to try and practice is the idea of simple tools and a simple, small tool set. And I think this is ironically a big part of the advice that you'll actually get. And it's really just a matter of contextualizing that advice to your exact journey. So I think that most people are going to say, hey, look, just don't worry about that. Just, use a pencil, just use this, don't worry about the tools and the techniques, just focus on you. Again, I think that's true, but it really is also a matter of finding out exactly which tools you need to go deep on. So let's take another sort of good example of a limited set of tools. This is something that's often applied in the traditional painting world and the digital painting world as well, is the idea of a limited palette. One of the most famous kind of limited palettes is the Zorn palette, which was again sort of made famous by Anders Zorn, who was a painter, I think, in sort of the late 1800s, and a really, really amazing painter. And the palette is kind of typically is said to have consisted of 4 colors, and it's essentially a yellow, a red, and a black and a white. Now, there's specific types of what those colors are, and the specific chemical ways that they would interact would probably allow you to have maybe a better range than if you just picked any yellow, red, white, or black. I suspect a lot of the blacks and whites are maybe a little bit cooler, so that when you're mixing them with those warm colors, you have a good opportunity to get some sort of cooler grays that might sort of end up looking like blues, for instance. But I think, again, that the traditional palette is sort of yellow ochre, vermilion, and I think sort of ivory black and sort of lead white or titanium white or something like that. I don't know a lot about painting, but again, this is a very, very strong idea, and the concept there is a good metaphor for how this works, because often what we're doing when we're painting and using color is we're dealing with learning how to represent the world on this two-dimensional frame. Now, if you just kind of squeeze, sky blue and grass green onto the canvas, again, what you'll find is that's actually quite an advanced technique to get that to work. I know a lot of artists who are really, really quite good at using these primary colors, and one of the things I notice is it's actually quite hard to do it well and keep it subtle. Often what you're doing with painting is dealing with the relativity of color, where you're trying to actually make something feel more or less green, and you're working with temperature contrast, complementary color contrast. The best example of this is that if you really want a forest to look green, you're well advised to put a little bit of red in it, right? A little bit of warmth, because that will make the green pop more, right? Because again, you have your red-green complement. So these are the ideas you're playing with, and the limited palette helps you to understand this, because it sort of makes you focus on warm and cool, and how to say, look, I need something that looks blue, but I don't have a blue, and I might not actually want a blue, because if I can create the feeling of coolness, the feeling of Again, that's sort of so that when I think this is ironically a big part of the advice that you'll actually get, and it's really just a matter of contextualizing that advice to your exact journey. So I think that most people are going to say, hey, look, just don't worry about that. Just, use a pencil, just use this, don't worry about the tools and the techniques, just focus on you. Again, I think that's true, but it really is also a matter of finding out exactly which tools you need to go deep on. So let's take another sort of good example of a limited set of tools. This is something that's often applied in the traditional painting world and the digital painting world as well, is the idea of a limited palette. One of the most famous kind of limited palettes is the Zorn palette, which was, again, sort of made famous by Anders Zorn, who was a painter, I think, in sort of the late 1800s, and a really, really amazing painter. And the palette is kind of, typically is said to have consisted of 4 colors. And it's essentially a yellow, a red, and a black, and a white. Now, there's specific types of, what those colors are, and the specific chemical ways that they would interact would probably allow you to have maybe a better range than if you just picked any yellow, red, white, or black. I suspect a lot of the blacks and whites are maybe a little bit cooler, so that when you're mixing them with those warm colors, you have a good opportunity to get some sort of cooler grays that might sort of end up looking like blues, for instance. But I think, again, that the traditional palette is...
Why is this in here? Throwing this away. Does somebody else want this? There's a pack of sun-made sour lemon flavored golden raisins that have been sitting there all week.
Jerry wants it.
Maltic acid, dried orange peel, sulfur dioxide. Seems great. Happy Friday.
Helmet's brain is like, does it make sense? Do you see a path for it to be a good Psychonauts mental world?
There's pretty consistent complaints that the game is not psychonautical enough right now.
It has all kinds of crazy water gameplay that needs a little bit more time to bake.
The stress has been a roller coaster.
Process on the team and how we work together.
You're the flight attendant on this puzzle pilot?
In what we're calling currently pilot areas.
The pilots were cool because it's like we saw progress.
Go team, making a good video game.
All right, who wants to do this meeting so we can be not in this meeting?
This is a great, wonderful meeting. This is the meeting we all get to come together after a sprint.
It's like the one meeting I'm actually totally cool with.
Look, Aaron said he's totally cool with this meeting. It's a nice, happy meeting.
Oh, well, as long as Aaron's...
It's a nice, happy meeting where we all get to show our work and how much the video game has improved, and we love it.
So, without further ado, so we are done with pilots.
Yay!
All right.
I heard Devin say playing it the other day that the things in the game that were bad are not that bad anymore. It was really high praise.
It's just it's art things everywhere.
Would you say it's 200% better than last sprint or 300% better?
I need those metrics.
So I think I'm even more excited that post-pilot is to bring all of these sectors together into that true vertical slice.
Yeah, I think we're here with the family game is going to be really fun, and then also
Like the things you have to achieve to be a level in Psychonauts is like all this good platforming and stuff, but also like try and make it something people haven't seen in the game before. Have it completely tell somebody's emotional journey in the landscape. You know, have it feel right narratively, have it really be surprising and fresh. So a lot of pressure to be original in the level.
Do you find yourself trying to explain this to James every time you see him in the hallway?
Do you think, why, James?
We're also re-kicking off the Bobsy and Helmet levels this sprint with some new level teams, basically the way that...
The helmet one, I mean, I literally have to step back and say you can do it. It's not like I have a choice.
Were you involved in the first pass on the helmet stuff?
Yeah, that was so long ago. That was like the first thing we worked on, I think.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Look up.
And that was like the Viking opera style?
Yeah.
James worked on it first, and
That was James's very first level.
It was, and that was a lot to ask.
We put James far out of his depth in those levels. As a person who never really built levels before, I don't think I appreciated how hard that was going to be I mean, I think even people who have made tons of levels before and are veteran game designers or level artists, like Psychonauts brain levels are incredibly hard. And making the first one in that position, I think was 100% not a fair mission to send him on.
This is his first time designing these kind of levels. You know, he was our junior level designer and put into a weird position of like doing a process we haven't done before, a project leader we haven't had before, and really put on the spot because, you know, some of the first levels we ever reviewed were his, and you have a lot of people in the room. And I think he's actually been pretty resilient for someone who's put under that kind of pressure, you know. I probably would have run out of the room in tears.
First, he's a brain without a body. So when you encounter Helmet, does everybody know the background of that? When you encounter Helmet, you're trying to get a brain to go into Nick's body so that you can get Nick to let you in the mailroom.
It is kind of a shame though, because I played through the old content and I actually really enjoyed it quite a lot. So there's like good stuff in there.
Did you talk to James at all about what the level used to be and the direction it was going in, just to sort of get his thoughts and feedback on it?
No, he was pretty cool about it. We talked a little bit about what worked, what didn't. Yeah. We're like, okay, we can do it like a bunch of different ways.
I think some of the mistakes were from just it being the first one of those things that we built and not knowing what the hell we were doing and not knowing how much direction to give a team versus white space. And I think I really erred on the side of giving a lot of white space. There was a lot of things to figure out. And I think, you know, what we learned from there and what I learned from there is like the amount of direction that is needed up front to be more successful.
So we are going to be getting Peter Chan. Good news, bad. Good.
Oh yeah, no, I heard about that.
Yeah, good news, bad news. Good news, Peter Chan's going to come on board for one last hurrah, and he's going to basically run a concept for like 2 to 3 weeks.
All right, so So a couple things we're trying to do with level kickoffs now is to be a little bit more clear about kind of like the high-level creative promises and direction that we're hoping the team kind of delivers on, of like what is the stuff that is kind of the creative challenge for y'all to figure out. Helmet is, at least as we discussed, there is a pitch for it that is somewhat specific in here. I don't think it's 100% yet. It's kind of off the presses. I think the biggest thing, like, we kind of understand what Helmet's problem is in the structure, but in terms of like where you are and the setting of the level, it's something that there's a proposal in here, open to other ideas, but we also have to like have a 2-week concept period where we figure that thing out, figure out something we all love, and move on. Inside, and this is sort of the actual pitch that we have on the table right now, Inside's Helmet's Mind is like some sort of outdoor music festival or amphitheater, and you need to sort of move between the different places where the senses are, who literally are like surreal, crazy noses and eyeballs and hand people or whatever, and convince each of them to work with you, to work with each other, again, to put on the show.
It wasn't so much, it was more concept than art.
Yeah, it was Peter Chan concept, and then also just some narrative direction, from Tim and Zach. And
we, messed around with like, what are the senses like? We talked about it a little bit, like it's like a prog rock band, like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, broken up, but also a little bit like Seven Samurai or Magnificent Seven. Like you're getting this band back together, and you have to go find each one. And the nose, no one's seen him in years, and like kind of recruiting them all, convincing them all to join the cause again. Remember that first practice we had in my basement? And they're like, yeah, when it was about the music, man, yeah.
There's the high level thing of like getting the band back together, just kind of made it easier.
Figuring out your iconic helmet view. Visual, we had talked a lot about trying to go down, because it is overwhelming, kind of like the Peter Max Yellow Submarine, overwhelming, surreal visuals, because it does feel like this is a level about someone who's overwhelmed by sense information they don't really know how to deal with. There would be something kind of overwhelming about the visuals of the level as well.
Peter Chan showed a bunch of the Yellow Submarine stuff, and that was kind of a natural like fit with that, and I just sort of took that and ran with it. Oh no, I have a question regarding Compton, because I know like Compton and Helmet had sort of a similar like general ideas about what they were going to look like, because Lisa Frick's very colorful, and like are we still doing that is what I'm wondering. Like
luckily Compton is completely in turnaround at this point, right? I don't think we
don't know what
Compton's
Yeah, I mean this has a strong visual direction with the Peter Max style influence that seems interesting, right?
It seems like
Compton is kind of not on the table right now, so
yeah, but if we did this as like Yellow Submarine, we probably also would not do Lisa Frank.
Okay.
That's totally fine. Lisa Frank elements in this one. You know what I mean? Like if they seem so close, they seem like they would absorb each other.
Yeah. You'd wanted to do a level based on
Lisa Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the beginning, I brought up Lisa Frank to Peter Chan and all the other artists, and Peter was like, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen this before," and it was pretty funny.
Listen, Helmet is still going to be gay. And that is the most important thing, is that I snuck in my gay agenda into this video game.
So he went on to do Bob Z, which is a brain and a character that's kind of in tandem with Helmet.
And then Bob Z was like a huge nightmare disaster where nothing worked, so we're rebooting that.
Oh yeah, the bonsai tree. Oh my god, yeah. That one.
Yeah. You did a lot of work on the bonsai tree, right?
Ugh, it was like all placeholder. It was kind of gross that it just didn't look or come out well, I think.
Peter taught me when I was at university, and I really looked up to him and his stuff. And yeah, I remember like when we were working on the bonsai tree for Bob Z, he came over and I was just showed him a white box, and I just just remember the expression on his face, which was just like kind of blank. It's like, what is this?
Move it. Jeff, someone deleted Bob Z. Okay. Someone's leaving the persistence. There are a lot of things that went wrong with Bob Z that are somewhat hard to pinpoint. There's like visual things we just should have caught earlier, like a bonsai tree and like porcelain houses just like didn't make sense or work together. It was just like a bonkers combination of ideas. Like it's just impossible to sell.
It used to be a village and a bottle, and then a bonsai tree, and then all these different things. And I think that's kind of how these games are made. And by these games, I mean Psychonauts games.
Okay, Bob, re-kickoff. He's back. He's tan, he's rested, he's ready. He's ready to be an exciting video game.
Level about a drunk guy.
The main thing is he's sort of self-medicating. He's had a really hard life. He's lost a lot, and that loss has led him to sort of withdraw from people and to self-medicate and withdraw into himself and sort of gradually break connections with all of his loved ones. But hey, Raz, if you want to try, sure, go ahead. And so Raz gets the ability to travel the world. As you sail around, the camera pulls out, and it becomes clear that you're on a tiny little ball of water with only one island in it, and you can kind of go around the whole thing like a little prince kind of dealio. And eventually you find a cork of some kind at the top of a bottle, and you can TK it off, and you go inside.
You go in the bottle, and in the bottle is this whole little world.
You like it, so good. Okay, keep going.
Inside the bottle is a little mini world that represents sort of a cast-off or painful memory of some loved one of Bob that he sort of corked up, cast off, and gotten out of his life and is no longer thinking about, and it's thrown out into the sea. And from a gameplay, you're on a boat, you're on a tiny planet, and there's all kinds of weird water state stuff.
I think the water manipulation stuff worries me a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
it feels
me
like
too.
we're doing two things that are like cool, that are unique to this level. It's like a boat and the water manipulation, and
Except in the
It's
bottles, we're not doing the boat. So in the bottles, there's nothing cool if you don't have the water manipulation. I mean, there's no currently a cool idea in the bottles, except for it looks cool to be in a bottle.
Like that feels like a big thing to take on, but if you treat it as like a dynamic object thing where you can like pull away blobs of water and do some sort of thing with them, roll it somewhere, I don't know, like TK it around and splash it into stuff. Like that seems like we already kind of have some of the tech in place to do that without it being like a major flooded, not flooded, ice zone, now it's water zone kind of thing.
And it's hard because sometimes I'm just sitting there quietly in the meetings because I'm thinking like I'm just waiting to be blown away by some idea, and that's, you don't want to be that jerk who's kind of like, I haven't seen anything I like yet, you know, like. But sometimes that is the way you're feeling about the level, you know.
I feel like maybe we didn't effectively post-mortem the first failure because we have the same water thing that we had last time that really tripped us up. And I still don't know what to do with it.
In our kickoff meeting, we talked a lot about like water and water interaction, which is just sort of hard to do with Raz when there's been such like.
Right. We go down that rabbit hole. It could be months of R&D.
The team. That's you people. That's you folks. That's you fine folks. So yeah, Jeremy and James, and then Gianna will be joining next week and jump right into it.
We're also getting a new concept artist who's going to be working with us on Bobsy, I think, which is very exciting.
Not mentioned this maybe before, but by the way, we film a lot of stuff here at the company.
Yeah, I worked at Harmonix for about 6 years, and yeah.
And you work with Zach at Harmonix?
I did for like a second,
Yeah.
but we didn't really cross paths.
We didn't work on
that
a
much.
project together.
Yeah,
but-
I looked at him. I saw him.
I do every day. We all gaze at Zach whether we work at it with him or not.
Yeah.
I'm doing it right now.
So I've always loved games. That's where me and my father got to curse at each other a lot. One day when we were playing GoldenEye, and I killed him. And he's like, "You fucking piece of shit."
Gigi. I always tell everyone about her. I'm like, we hired this chick from Philly, and she'll be like, shit, and F-bombs, and she's so loud, you can hear her across the studio.
Yeah, there's a lot more women.
Faith is our new animator.
Janice Bell, welcome to Double Fine Productions. Please stand up. Please stand up. I gotta shake your hand.
Hello.
I haven't even talked to you yet. Hell, welcome to the company.
Nice to meet you.
The bathroom is a lot more crowded. I'm really sad about this. I'm like happy that there's more women. I'm like, yeah, women game developers, that's awesome. But I like having a bathroom too. Women take longer in the bathroom.
Common problem.
But when I learned about Double Fine was in college when someone showed me Grim Fandango. And I was like, this is cool. I like this. And then from there it was like, oh yeah, cool. They have cool stories and like fun art style, and it's like silly and not like a serious man that needs to shoot everybody.
Awesome. James, I'm sorry. There's already been one question asked. Whisper, what's the question?
It's about self-driving cars.
Yeah, I think we're good. Okay. All right. Psychonauts hired a lot of people, and so there's a whole new generation of people that are new to the company, and they're so enthusiastic.
I'm like really, really excited to be here. Full Throttle was like my jam growing up. Played that game like a million times. Day of the Tentacle, iconic stuff for me. So.
And Joshua and Jerry and Faith. It's great to have a mix of people who have been here since 1800s, and then there's brand new people like Gigi.
You have to display it on your desk. It's like I was the last new person, so now you.
And then I see my stupid picture on their desk. It's so embarrassing.
This was given to Tucker when he first came on, so since then it's been going to all the new people.
Yeah, all right.
That is what has happened.
He is so pretty.
Yeah, what a handsome man.
When you look into his eyes, it's just like.
You can optionally.
And they're gonna think I did that. They're gonna be like, yeah, Tim started this weird tradition where they put his face on their desks. It's not me. He's obviously a fan of mine.
It's gonna be great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's official now.
How else is the rest of the game right now? Is it super like funny?
I don't think we even know.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Like the only level that's farthest along is Cassie, and there's very little story represented in there.
Which one's Cassie?
Books.
I want to talk about also the water mechanics.
Because
we'll be discussing that Tuesday, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If we don't walk out of that meeting on Tuesday with like, this is what we're gonna make our level out of, I'm gonna flip out.
This is probably too crazy, but so he's near water, and then the water actually turns into a person, and is like, ah! That was so stupid. And he's like, I don't like you, and he's like, oh, be my friend. Saggy tits.
Yeah, maybe it's.
I feel like we're gonna have a good presentation on Tuesday.
And then, can you help me find my guitar? And you go into this weird trippy world, and there's towers, and the moat came with you, and he teaches you time bubble, and you climb to the top of the tower to get the sweet guitar. And Raz plays the guitar and goes, ring, and we wipe, and he's like, thanks, man. And he goes, ring, and the moat like sort of freaks out a little bit, and he's got eyeballs. And he's like, whoa, what happened? I guess we need to find the rest of your band. To the van! So,
Emily in particular on that level, she'll do a ton of explorations, and then you know when you know. It's like it just hit, throw it on, everybody's like, yep, that's it. And we have those moments here. It's like you'll do some exploration, and then somebody will be like, yep, that's it, that's the right call.
Emily was really awesome at helping us put together those pitches and visualizing what the level is actually going to be like, including the entire like arc of the narrative within our brain.
And you open this map, and you like zoom in, boop, and you go boop, 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 boop.
Oh, so you play on the map?
Maybe.
That sounds great.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay. Oh, that warms my heart. I'm glad. That's what I want. That's what I want in this game. I want emotion and story and feelings and all that like touchy-feely stuff. I don't care about the jumping as much. I just want a good story and like weirdness and to be surprised. That's what I want in this game.
The original idea was that Helmet's level was going to be a musical level, so it's something that had already been talked about. And in fact, there had been talk at various points about having Jack Black play Helmet.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, so because it seems like this is leading up to a musical number, and there would need to be a song at the end. So
I'm curious how they would use all these instruments in a song.
How are you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing good.
Doing good?
Yeah. Just working on Helmet right now. It's going well.
He's so chill right now.
Yeah.
He got out of that Helmet meeting. The one time where like we did the like, this is what we're gonna do, this is the structure. And everyone was like, yeah, go. And then he was so amazed. He's like, it went well. What's going on? You're learning all the secrets. Are you still going to be friends with everyone after the doc?
I'll be friends with you.
Okay, good.
Thankfully, it was such a strong direction, and like Emily kind of had a really good idea of what to make. So whatever she made was like, it fit really well. So I just kind of built off that. It kind of worked out. Whoa. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna try to do this in a couple different ways. And then Tazio did this with mesh. And it's kind of another way to do it, so it's like a 3D thing that does it.
Yeah, I'd already talked to Tazio too, and he's actually making this so that the silhouette maintains its shape, so you don't get that like shrinking feeling to the end of it. So.
Okay.
Yeah, he's working on some scripts so we can start testing it at some point.
Yeah.
He's kind of busy with a bunch of stuff.
We could set it up in such a way that we have interior lines and texture, and then just do exterior lines.
You just kind of double the geo and then set the normals to be reversed, and that's how the outline shows up. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, like the stuff Tazio's doing is great. Like there's a lot of Tazio shit in here that is making my life a lot easier. Have you guys talked to Tazio yet? About him being the only VFX artist for a while?
Jeremy Mitchell is going to be leaving Double Fine. It is with sadness that I have to state this. To be going elsewhere. I don't even know. You'll have to ask Jeremy. I don't even know if you want to share that. Not my business.
The beard stays, Jeremy. Yeah.
The beard stays. We're going to take the beard and we're going to staple it to the back wall.
No, we put on the next FX artist.
Oh, yeah. So Tazio's in for a lot of work when he gets back on Monday.
Before I left, I was like, we did the refresh. I don't know what's the lighting.
Yeah, I think you should just pick his brain and then see if anything like.
We've done a lot
triggers.
since then.
Yeah.
Certainly by next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Just keep me updated on all that stuff. Cheers. Sorry?
You already knew that Jeremy was leaving before you left.
I didn't actually. Yeah, it's a bummer, you know. It's been really nice. Just like for me, learning a lot about game effects. Just having Jeremy who's just like, you know, from my perspective, pretty fucking irreplaceable. So it's fine. I'll figure it out. But yeah, the upside is the Houdini license is all mine.
I think it's definitely overwhelming. That's understandable. VFX artists are hard to find, but I think he's up to the challenge and he accepts that it's an opportunity to grow.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
And become better.
Does Tim know?
He was hugging a large doll.
Yeah.
That might take a while.
I can understand.
Should we reschedule?
Are there things that are a surprise for Tim here?
Well, we're going to show the mechanic.
Okay.
Which he seemed the least sold on.
That's keeping it warm for you.
Thank you.
Our mechanic that we talked about last week. Air plants. So, I found a fruit.
All right. You've got a crazy plant.
It's a Japanese
It's
watermelon.
like a multicolored, cool-looking strawberry. Oh no,
Oh,
water.
it's the water. You can't go in the
Why
water.
does he always forget that?
But what if I could?
Whoa.
God damn it, Andy. I would
It's
say
under
it's
your
an
control now.
evolution.
It's under your
It's an
control now,
evolution
Andy.
of something we introduced as a concept in Second Up to One.
That was a harsh one from Andy. What happens at the end? You just have a little narrative thing at the end, or there's a...
So you chase after this plant that has taken your mom, but as you get smaller and smaller, you end up in a sink, and in the sink is that...
Dirty dishes level.
30 dishes level.
We want a dirty
you end
dishes
up in a
level,
sink.
yeah.
Tim, how are you feeling? You look very thoughtful.
How am I feeling? How am I feeling?
Aside from this meeting, how are you feeling?
Are you excited about the level?
Are you excited about the level?
I'm very excited about the level.
Excited, me too. Then I like the effect of that that little plant going through all. I mean, I'd love to. I always love to see like an example puzzle to like prove out that you can do something cool with it, you know? Placing it places to solve puzzles, and you're putting it on a moving platform where you're doing, you know, side blasting it. I don't know. You're doing things with it. Do you use it as a tool? I think that's the cool part of it.
Cool.
Okay. I have to sneak off to another meeting.
All right.
You guys can hang out.
Have fun at it.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, well, when we did the new level for Flow, I believe.
Wait,
Bulleted
Jeff,
reminder of what we're looking for.
did Tim seem excited?
You guys can sort it out.
Okay. I find Tim very hard to read now.
Way more complex than it really is.
Sure.
How is it presenting to Zach and Tim and getting feedback from them?
It's a weird meeting.
Like, if the thing is, let's say, a piece of fruit, and the solutions work around that fruit, is that okay? You know, like if you're in Helmet and you see
I'm not an approving body here. It's going to work or not work for the game. Like people are going to play it and buy it, and it's going to like they'll understand it or they won't. This isn't a matter of I personally give a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Sure.
There's like a little bit of pressure, you know, and you don't know like what to expect. I wish that there was a little more decisions, like hard decisions. There's been a little bit of like, well, who decides if this should be, you know, whatever, like a door, like we were talking about the other day, like if it's a door.
The kind of sled dog, fish pulling the door along.
I guess you could
which
have
is
like
also pretty fun.
multiple
Pretty fun
fish.
to see. Yeah.
The boat's a door, and then we decided that 2 weeks from now, and now we're bringing up the door again. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, does anybody not want to do the door?
The door boat.
Yeah.
I think the door functioned as a way to justify why doesn't Bob just get on the boat by himself.
No, I know, and it's also cute, but I also don't know that that needs a justification. Like, Bob probably just doesn't want to go find those memories, so I don't know that, like, we have to do the door thing to explain that.
And it's like, what's happening? Who made the decision? Like,
I think if you guys are still excited about being a door, it should be a door.
Yeah,
you
I
should
think
do that.
so.
It just is.
I think it should be a door because it's cool. I'll make the decision. It's a fucking door, you know, whatever. But like, you know, so there's a lot of like that kind of nebulous stuff going around.
You're in like a clearing of a field or something with some trees, and yeah, that kind of something to
is very
obscure
different.
that a little
I mean,
bit.
we're not gonna have.
We're not having trees.
Yeah, it's supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
Kind of
Okay.
dry.
It's this.
like-
It's gonna be like close to this concept.
Okay.
Shit, I probably should have said that.
Could have another potted plant idea.
Well, it is a potted plant, I guess, but also sometimes you can't pick it up, so sometimes it's not a potted plant, I guess.
I mean, can the same plant just be rooted in the ground when it's stationary, and then in a plant when you can move it, or in a pot? I mean.
Yeah, I guess so. Almost every time you go in, you're kind of like giving a little bit of a pitch. So you have to have like a structure to that pitch to show them, here's where we